This video is going to be on ChatEIC. This is a grant writer for the EIC Accelerator that I created. I haven't done a new video on it in a long time because I just didn't get to it. So now this is going to be the video showing how the current version works. Even though I'm a grant writer myself and I use a lot of different tools, I still use ChatEIC. If there's a client of mine that says they want to have a quick draft for the EIC Accelerator, then I always create one. It gives you deep research. You get deep research on policies, deep research on market, and deep research on competitors, and it's going to craft the proposal around that. I usually say it's a very good draft. I've seen companies literally submit the ChatEIC version and pass step 1, but I don't recommend it. I recommend creating the draft and then actually editing it to make sure everything is accurate, and then maybe add a few things that the AI missed. But generally speaking, it's a simple tool, but even now I still use it myself. So it's great if you want to have a quick draft, but you don't want to pay a consultant to actually write it, because it uses very detailed input validation to make sure that you actually add all the data it needs, rather than expecting you to already know what the EIC Accelerator is looking for. So there's a very important input validation part that checks and makes sure that you actually have the input you need. And then of course on the outside you have the draft creation, which uses very detailed instructions on how these proposals should look like. You can see here at the homepage, the most important part is there at the top. You can see that there is one counter which actually counts to the next deadline. So it shows how many days and how many hours it actually takes for the next deadline. And then the other part here on the right shows you what you have access to when you click on the link. So what you have is credits. Credits help you create a proposal. One credit, one proposal. If you want to just have one, obviously one is enough. If you want to create multiple proposals or multiple versions, you need multiple credits. Then training, I created a training system, which basically shows you how to write certain sections. There's a lot of content. You can see it. Everything is showcased on the landing page with an example. And then a review. That is, if you want to have a review from me, you can actually directly purchase it here. But I'm just going to focus on the credit parts now, on how to generate a proposal. So let's click on the Writer tab in the menu bar, and then you can decide what you want to click on. So of course you can create an empty proposal, but we are going to use the AI generated proposal, which is the whole point. So now I clicked here and it says create a new project. If I already had a project, then it would show it on the right here, but this is a new account, so I don't have one yet. So I'm going to click create a new project. Now I have two options. Either I can start from scratch, which will take some time for me to fill in a lot of form fields, because one of the most important bits with EIC Accelerator is that you need a lot of data and it's not obvious. If you read the official template, you're actually not aware of exactly what you need for the proposal, because it doesn't give you the granularity of the numbers and the stats and the technical details you actually need. So they leave a lot up to the imagination. So what I did is I created a very comprehensive form, but you can use AI to pre-fill it. So you don't have to start from scratch. You can see here I have some pre-fills left, so I'm going to click on that option. Now I can upload a file. What it's going to do is it's going to extract all the text, send it to the LLM, and then let the LLM fill all of the forms for you. If you are unsure if you already have the data or not, if you're starting out, or maybe you just don't know what you actually need for this proposal, then you can copy this little guide which says copy data gathering instructions for LLMs. For sure, you're working with AI already, so you probably have your own agent, maybe use Claude Cowork, maybe use Codex, maybe you have an IDE, whatever it is. You can copy these instructions, and I'm now going into an empty Google Doc, and now I'm pasting them here as Markdown because the instructions are in Markdown. And now what I'm looking at is the actual instructions for your own agent, what you actually need. And this is something that a lot of companies already have, of course, the founding date, the company name, company website, the country, but then it gets a little more specialized when it comes to the customer groups, the pains and the gains, the customer examples, including the website URL, competitor groups. There's a bunch of stuff here: partners, investors, commercial partners. Do you have a letter of intent or not? Who are your team members? Are they founders or not? So there's a bunch of stuff, revenues, financial data. So there's a lot of stuff here. So the reason I created this copy paste part where you can literally just copy this particular instruction is if you have your own agent, you can now tell the agent, hey, I need to gather a lot of data about my company. Can you please go through the knowledge base and find everything in this list? And then your agent is going to work. It's going to gather all that stuff. That is way better than you having to upload everything that you own about your company to some ChatEIC tool, because clearly you want to keep most of the stuff you have confidential. So this is the better way, so you know exactly what you extract. So once this is done, and I now did this for Lovable, which is a vibe coding app, because they just got a massive investment from the Scale Up Europe fund. So I thought, why not use Lovable as an example? Of course, Lovable is way too big for the EIC Accelerator. They're already at TL9. This is not a good fit, but it's going to be a very good example for what we're doing. So we're going to create a proposal for Lovable, which is officially DeepTech because of the Scale Up Europe fund investment. So if you're a software company, this should give everybody hope. If Lovable is DeepTech, everybody is DeepTech. So I haven't studied all of this. This is AI generated based on Lovable. So let's just see what happens if I upload that. And then let's see what happens with ChatEIC. I'm just going to download this. It doesn't matter what the format is. You can have a Word file, you can have a PDF, you can have a text file. It doesn't really matter which one. I'm just going to take a text file for simplicity's sake. And now that I'm back in ChatEIC, I'm going to upload the file right here. Here we go. So the file itself only has 40,000 characters. So that is way below the limit. So there's a lot of content there. But now I'm clicking Create with AI. And what's happening then is it's going to work, and then it's going to try to pre-fill all of the forms. As soon as it's done, it's going to send you an email saying, hey, your project is ready. So I can close this now because it's going to work in the background. Perfect. Now I got the email. So this is from ChatEIC. Your project, Lovable Lab Sweden AB. So that is obviously the company, is ready. So this is the email. And now if I click on the link, it's actually going to show the project. There we go. Here we have the project. There's already a bunch of stuff you can see just in this hover here. You can see 4 fields are empty, or there's 4 validation errors. I'm going to get into that in a bit. You can see there's an attachment. It already automatically attached the file that I just uploaded. And yeah, so let's open it. Let's see what we got. So Lovable Lab Sweden AB, that's nice, but I'm actually going to shorten that one. I just want it to be Lovable. I don't want to have the confusion of this very long company name. It's going to pop up a lot in the proposal. Let's just call it Lovable. Founding year, 2024. Country, and we have the website. That's all correct. So let's look at the customer groups here. So we have group 1, okay. We have enterprise internal software teams, that makes sense. Product innovation teams, okay. Sales marketing, startup and lean SMEs, okay. And we have some benefits here. And then we have examples, actual customer examples. You have different customer groups, and each customer group has different examples. So you have multiple examples per group. We have the website URLs for everything. That's very good. We can see later what is missing, but this all looks very good. Now let's go to the competitor examples. Also a bunch of stuff here. We have the no-code visual app builders. Yeah, for sure. I wonder if Replit is mentioned, because Replit is one of their competitors. Let's see if the initial fill. Oh, there it is. Perfect. It did its job. This was, although this was not ChatEIC, this was ChatGPT, which I used to actually generate the initial fill. So, but Replit is one of the competitors. I'm sure you can also list a lot. You can go with, oh, this is all no, yeah, I heard of Bubble. I guess, yeah, AI coding agent, yeah, Claude Code, perfect. Yeah, this is what I would have said. Cursor is what I would have also listed, but you don't have to go overboard. But Cursor would be another one as an example. And of course, Codex. There's a bunch of things you could have mentioned, but that's already very good. Vercel, very good. V0, yeah. Okay, partners. Oh yeah, this is, I believe, infrastructure, yeah, AI infrastructure. I read about this. Sure, Stripe, yeah, because they need all the integration. Lovable is a vibe coding app. Okay, so the quality is already very good. This is the fill from ChatGPT, but then obviously the AI pre-fill was ChatEIC, so that basically took the data and put it in the right spot. We have investors. It maxed out 10. That's very good. Added a lot of investors. There's the Scale Up Europe fund. This just happened this month. It actually added the asset manager, EQT, which is correct because the Scale Up Europe fund does not have a website. It is managed by this asset manager. It's actually fully correct. Very good. So this looks all very good. So we have a bunch of investors, we have team members. It only took 3 team members. Of course, the company has, I believe, almost 200 employees, or maybe even more at this point, but it managed to get the founders right. So just pick the founders here, oh, except for this person. But yeah, okay, that's very good. So if this was your proposal, add a few more team members. You can max it out. You can go like 10, 12 team members. Advisors were not added, but you can add some advisors if you have one, of course. With Lovable, could be something like the board or something. funding. Total funding raised, of course, it's a very large number here, so it's actually very big. Let's shorten this a little bit. Let's make this something like 8 million, a little more digestible. Revenues generated today. Let's pretend we're like a little startup at this point. We're not the big Lovable. We are like a small little company. We have made, let's say, 100K. This is a little more digestible for the EIC Accelerator. Let's project some revenues. Let's say we go 200K. No need to think too much about this here. Of course, if this is your project, you want to have the accurate value. And then let's go in the first year of commercialization, we go with 1.5 million. So that's not too bad. So the reason it's set up here with 3 years is 2027. 2028, this is actually the EIC Accelerator years. And you can see there's these little icons here. If you click and you have access to the training, it's going to explain a lot of that stuff. So, but I'm just doing here a little bit of a quick rundown, which honestly most users of ChatEIC are doing. You want to have the first draft quickly, and then from there you can edit however you like. But just know that 2027, next year, is going to be the first year of the project. 2028 is going to be the second year of the project. And 29 is going to be when you commercialize it. TL6 is always the better starting point. What are we going to ask for? Yeah, let's go for the max equity. Let's go for 2.5 million grand. That's fine. Then here, technology developments. Oh, that's very good. Let's just keep it for now. If this is your project, of course, you fill it correctly. Core innovation. It's not a secret what they're doing. They're an AI vibe coding app. They have a great execution. They have to have really efficient, good pricing. And in the end, they're a wrapper around other AI models. They're an extremely good and very popular wrapper. But if your innovation is something else, of course, you fill that out. What exactly is the product? That's very good as well. Unique selling points, very specific. What is your pricing? Very good. And where have you been features? Oh, we have Euronext, Wall Street Journal. So there's a bunch of stuff. Very good. With links. The actual mention is very good. Big names. And then we have patents. Of course, Lovable is going to be mostly trademarks and things like that. I can already see there's a link missing. There's a bunch of trademarks and so on. But that's all very good. So everything is filled. That's it. That's the entire project already. That's a project in a nutshell. So let's look at what the validation errors are. So we have, customer group 4, there's an URL missing. Partners must have at least one commercial partner. We don't have commercial partners. Advisors must have at least 2 advisors. Okay. Let's actually keep this empty for now because it's just to demonstrate how it works. But if you wanted to have it as perfect as possible, then of course you will try to fill everything. But I made it in a way where you don't need to fill everything if you don't want to. You can literally just fill half of it. It's just a helper. Here's a little overview, which is for you. It shows you basically your entire project again as a bit of a one-shot overview. Where exactly are you? What's going on with the project? It's going to do some calculation. You see it actually calculated very deterministically what the revenues and the margins are going to be. This is a little bit out of the box because financials, surprisingly, they're very simple for the EIC Accelerator. You just try to be aligned with the story. But again, I don't want to super explain everything it does, but you can see you have very proper financials here. You have a chart that's going to be automatically generated. You can also download it here if you want to. Yeah, so there are a bunch of things. And again, you can also copy everything if you want to have, I call them super variables. So you enter variables and some things are going to be automatically added into super variables. Financials are a good example. The financials are actually calculated. Same for the blended finance, same for what's going to happen with the equity request, what's going to happen with the commercial partners and so on. But let's go to the next one. So the file that is uploaded now, you can replace it if you want, but it's just going to take the raw data we just input here. I don't have any other document or Lovable, so let's just keep this for now. If this is your proposal, you would aim to have a very detailed technical description here. Something that really explains the backend, the hardware, the technology, whatever it is, because this is missing in the overview. So something very technical. This is also what it says here, technology details. Now, that's pretty much it. So you can see there's some validation errors. You have customer groups. It's the same stuff that we had now. I'm going to ignore this for now. And I'm just going to click generate a proposal. You can see I have 1 credit left. That's 1 proposal. Perfect. Exactly what I need right now. So let's generate the proposal. It's going to ask, this will consume 1 credit. You have 1 left. Yes, generate. There we go. Same thing, I can close this window because it's going to send me an email when it's done, so I don't have to sit and wait. It's not going to take 20 minutes, but this counter is just to make sure you don't accidentally start the generation twice. Okay, perfect. So I received my email. Now the proposal is ready, so you can see your project, lovable, completed. This took about 14 minutes from starting the proposal generation to getting this first draft. I can either directly click download, which is going to download a Word file directly, or you click on view proposal, which I'm doing now. So you can see it directly opens the proposal in this browser view. So you can see this is the entire proposal. If you can access the training program, then clicking here is going to show you everything. You have details on every section in case you want to edit it in here. But otherwise, you can just download as a Word file by just clicking the Word button, or you can also just click on download here. And there's also a few other functions, but they're not going to be relevant. So that is your proposal. It picked code as the acronym. If you consider that the STEP Scale Up Fund invested in this, which means it should be a European sovereignty technology, something very important strategically for Europe. So it picked code sovereignty, which is really funny. It's actually a really clever one. So that is the acronym. And then you have a title: Visionary, Autonomous, Intent to Production Platform Lovable converts natural language into deployable full stack code, accelerating delivery, ensuring secure governance, and democratizing global software creation. Okay, very good. Company and countries, everything is correct. So now you can see, first of all, you have a bunch of hyperlinks. It actually picked the name and it hyperlinked everything to the correct URL. And you can see the same thing for certain things when it comes to IP. And in this case, it's trademarks or certifications. You can see everything is linked. Same for the names, customer names, competitor names, everything is linked. So that's very convenient, so you don't have to manually do it. But most importantly, you can see that you have a good first draft. I usually see it as a first draft where, okay, it's saving you 90% of the time already, because the entire input validation plus the draft creation is going within 40 minutes. In these 40 minutes, you don't really have to do much. You saw in the video how much I had to work. It was almost nothing. But the most important thing comes now, because now you have to edit, you have to look for accuracy, you have to make sure everything is accurate, you have to make sure everything is in the correct page limit. So there's still a bunch of stuff you have to do now, but that is natural. You don't want an AI to just create something. It has to be perfectly accurate. Even though you created a draft very quickly, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't edit it properly. So this is a very important part, but you can see that you have a very good structure on customer relationship, basic partners, customer benefits. The customer groups are properly explained. You have nice icons. Everything is already formatted. So what's really important here is that the formatting is already there. You still have to add your own images. Of course, you never want to have just a sloppy AI generated image in your proposal. You want to make sure everything is your own. The only image that I actually add here is the financials, which matches what you just saw in the beginning when we started. And it even adds a risk section. So that draft is actually already more complete than what you get from the EIC, because the EIC proposal template is very thin, which is a nice way to put it. But you can see a bunch of stuff is here. And there were things that were missing in the beginning. So we did not include commercial partners and stuff like that, but it did very well. One of the things that's very important here is you have the main proposal. It also gives you a video script, because you have to record a 3-minute video that should show your face. So of course, this is not generated by AI. You could easily voice over this, but of course you want to have something that is you. It's already well structured into how exactly it should look like. We have the problem, solution, commercial. For you can pick 3 of your team members to be on camera and to read the script. And then we have the abstract. It's also creating an abstract for you, which is not part of the proposal, but you have to add it when you submit the proposal. So this is part of part A of the proposal submission. The proposal itself is part B, and this is part A, including other technical details like your company address and so on. So this is more for your information. The reason it took 14 minutes to generate this proposal, amongst other things, is because it does a lot of deep research. So it does 3 passes of deep research. It does policy and regulatory research, including a lot of citations, which you can see here. Of course, you can read it, but this was used to create the proposal. And then you have another pass on the competitors, another deep research set. And then you have another set which is focusing on the market and the general market analysis. So 3 types of deep research: market, competitor, and policy. And this is going to obviously help a lot in structuring the proposal. And you can see by the size of the scroll bar, it's a lot. So there's a lot of deep research, which you can copy. And if you want to have it in your own system, if you want to use it to refine it, maybe use different citations, you can do that too. There are citations added out of the box. They're basically here hyperlinked in these brackets. So there's always citations added for the important sections, the overall problem. One of the things that's important. It actually figures out a good narrative. So the narrative is so important. And whenever a company comes to me and they go rejected with a proposal, I'm always looking, okay, what's the narrative here? Did you craft a good narrative? So it does this out of the box. It really outlines a problem here and creates a your technology shaped problem. So there's a problem and your technology fits this problem perfectly. So yeah, okay, there's a bunch of things on the quality, but this guide was just supposed to show you how it works. So this is how it is. This is the proposal. It was very easy, very quick, and feel free to use it anytime.